Oops. Okay. So there we go. Histology, the study of tissues. Okay. And we'll be focusing on, instead of focusing a lot on, the names of the different types of tissues and what they look like, we'll be focused on what they actually do. Okay. So let's go through. Okay. Cell junctions hold cells together to form tissue. So and this is especially true of epithelium. Okay. Epithelium and the other cell types, okay, they all have cell junctions. Epithelium just has more, especially in the first group, the cell adhesion molecules. Okay. So gap junctions, tight junctions. So gap junctions are really easy to explain. Okay. Cells, when you line them up in a tissue, usually you line them up in rows, and therefore you need a signal to signal all the tissue, the whole tissue. So you need a signal to travel through all the cells as fast as it can. Okay. The tight junctions and stuff are all going to block things off. So you need a type of junction that allows signals to pass through. And those are basically called gap junctions. Okay. A gap junction has cells, cell 1, cell 2. The purpose of a gap junction is a little gap in between the cells, okay, and that allows that to work. A little gap in between the cells. Okay, here's a cell, there's a blue cell. This little gap allows for signals to travel from 1 to 2 right away. Okay, and then from 3 to 4, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Okay. The tight junctions. Okay. The reason for tight junctions are to adhere two things together, to kind of rivet them together so they move as one. Okay. Let me see what I have a picture. Okay. So these adherent junctions, desmosomes, and stuff like that. These guys, okay. Let me find a good picture. There we go. Okay. These anchoring junctions, their job is to anchor two things together. Okay. The anchoring junctions for desmosomes are for anchoring things together. So when you pull on one, it pulls the other one with it. So if I pull my right hand, okay, my left hand comes along with it. Therefore, what I don't see is tearing. Okay, you don't ever want to see tearing of cells. So now, if you tear these apart, now you have a hole in which things can invade or penetrate. Okay, the gap junctions we talked about earlier was the type of communicating junction. So they have a hole to connect cell to cell. And the last one are occluding junctions or tight junctions. Occluding junctions seal. Okay, they block the path in between cells. Okay, they function like a Ziploc bag. Once you zip across it, what stays inside the bag stays inside the bag, and what the outside of the bag can't get in, and the inside the bag can't get out. Okay, the same thing for occluding junctions. They work like a zipper. When they zip across, like things can't get in between them. Okay. All right. The four tissue types. Okay, epithelial, connective, muscle, neural. Okay. Okay. So again, you should know what epithelium do. Okay, epithelium provide protection and regulate exchange between tissues. Remember, epithelium is always going to be on the outside surface of anything. Anything facing the outside world will have epithelium on it. Okay, and therefore the epithelium is going to be the media for providing protection and regulating exchange. Okay. So one of the most important criteria is how leaky the epithelium are, how much exchange the epithelium allows, and what type of exchange the epithelium allows. Okay. All right. So this is a structural classification. So again, epithelium are either simple or stratified, and then they're either flat, cuboidal, or columnar. Okay. All right. So here you can see a really simple drawing of a human body and looking at the epithelium all around. Okay. Okay. Epithelial cells always attach something called a basal lamina, okay, through cell adhesion molecules, okay, CAMs, okay. All right. Okay, so what you guys are responsible for is this chart, okay, the 5 different types of epithelium based on function. Okay, all right, so if I want exchange, okay, if I want to have things move from one side to the other, the thinner the wall is, the easier it is to move from one side to the other. Okay, and it's dramatic. Every little tiny change, it dramatically increases the rate at which the exchange happens. So the thinner the better. Okay. So where you'll see this, the lungs, the lining of blood vessels, okay, one single layer of cells, okay, that's flattened, that's squamous, very thin. Okay. Okay. The transport epithelium. Okay. Transport epithelium is going to be slightly thicker than just exchange because they need to make things, they need to carry things. So there's more involved in transport. Okay. I have to move things from one side to another. True, but I need the molecules, I need the proteins and things to actually pick them up and transport them to the other side. And therefore, I want one single layer of cells, but the cells can't be thin, they have to be at least regular shapes. So columnar or cuboidal. Okay. I can have, for example, microvilli. Okay. Microvilli, if you guys remember, is these finger-like projections coming out of the cells that increase surface area for transport. So I can absorb things very quickly. Okay. All right. Cilia. Okay. Cilia and epithelium. Again, it's one layer. It doesn't make sense to have cilia on multiple layers of cells. So cilia are going to move. Okay. So the difference between cilia and microvilli is that cilia move and microvilli don't. Okay. Cilia move and they generate currents. Okay. And when it generates current, they move the fluid across the surface. Okay. So anywhere where you want flow, you need cilia and epithelium. Okay. So nose, trachea, your upper airway, okay, the female reproductive tract where the egg travels. Okay, you need cilia and epithelium to generate current. Okay. Okay. Protective epithelium will always have multiple layers because if you have like 30 layers, then you can lose one or two or five and be fine. Okay. So surface of your skin is the best example of protective. Okay, so many layers. The first layers are going to be flattened tissue because you don't need whole cells there. You just need something to slough off. So flattened cells, okay, they're going to be bigger and deeper layers. Yes, the cells are that yeah, they're still making stuff that will eventually cause them to flatten out, but they're not there yet. Okay, so that's protective epithelium. Okay, and then signatory are going to be a little bit different. Signatory will be the signatory epithelium will always be columnar and or polygonal because they need room to make whatever they're secreting. Usually they're one layer, okay, but sometimes there are many, but only the top one actually secretes stuff. Okay. So endocrine glands, pancreas, sweat glands, etc., etc. Okay. All right. So this is exchange epithelium. Okay. This is transport epithelium. Okay. This is transport epithelium. So you can transport one thing to the other side, but they usually need transporters, like things that actually physically carry them to the other side. Okay. This is cilia. So you see the cilia. The purpose of the cilia is to beat in rhythm. And when you beat in rhythm, you generate current, and that current can move fluid across the surface. Okay. Okay. Protective, again, many layers of tissue. You lose in the top. This is the surface of your skin. You can lose many layers of tissue. This is something like forearm skin. That's relatively thin. But you can lose many layers of tissue and still have more tissue to go. Okay, the top layers are all dead, dry skin that are flattened. And then secondary epithelium. This is secondary epithelium. Okay, it needs to secrete stuff to the outside, so they need a larger cell to do that. Okay, so these are the large cells that do that. All right. All right. the characteristics of the other four tissue types we've covered, epithelium mostly, but you should know like everything in this chart is fair game for the test. Okay. Okay. So the structure of connective tissues. Okay. Connective tissues is the one type of tissue where the extracellular matrix is more than the cells. There's more extracellular matrix, and the extracellular matrix is probably more important to the function than the cells. Okay. So connective tissues in the extracellular matrix, you have fixed cells that provide local maintenance, tissue repair, energy storage. Okay, the blasts. Okay, so mix. Okay, osteoclast. This is more stuff. Okay, so blasts make stuff like, for example, fibroblasts make fibers. Okay, clasts destroy stuff like osteoclasts destroy bone. Sites maintain stuff. Okay, chondrocytes, for example, maintain cartilage. Okay. Okay. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay. You should try to understand this map. Okay, and then connective tissue. Okay, the different types of connective tissue. Like, I know I'm going through this rather quickly, but I expected you to learn all this material in anatomy already. Okay. Wow. Okay, there's some typos in here. Okay. Connective tissue provides support and barrier. So the types of connective tissue, and we're talking connective tissue proper, there's two types. There's loose and dense. The difference between loose and dense is the amount of stuff that's in there. Loose, there's much less fibers in there. There's more room to maneuver in loose connective tissue. So cells, or like white blood cells, can move through loose connective tissue easily. Dense irregular or dense connective tissue, there is much less mobility. But there's greater strength. Okay, there's much more fibers to dense connective tissue. Okay. Those fibers are able to provide either strength or flexibility, depending on what type of fibers they are. Okay, the regular and irregular refers to the patterning of the tissue and how, like, where you need the fibers from and where you need the strength from. Okay. Okay. Cartilage, bone, these are all adipose tissue, blood, these are all like connective tissue types. And again, should have gone over this in that in anatomy. Okay. Tissue. Okay. Bone, dense. So you can see the difference between loose and dense here is the number of fibers. There's much fewer fibers here as opposed to here. Okay. This is bone, this is cartilage. Okay. So cartilage bone, their function is support. Okay, like physical weight bearing support. Okay. Tissue, adipose. This is fat. Okay, this is blood. But if you don't understand this stuff, make sure you ask me during our meetings, because I'll be happy to go over those with you guys during this class time. But I, I I'm working from the point of view that you guys understand this. So hopefully you guys understand this. Okay. Muscle tissue generate contractions, which generate force. Okay. Which allow us to move. Okay. 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 Now, this you probably haven't really heard yet. Okay. So we'll go over this. Okay. There, cell death plays a really critical role in physiology in your body. Okay. Cells grow and cells die. Sometimes they die on purpose. Sometimes they die because a virus infects them and not on purpose. Okay. When they die on purpose, they die through apoptosis. Okay. Programmed cell death, cellular suicide. The cell gets a signal to commit suicide and it commits suicide. Okay. Cells that are undergoing apoptosis implode. Cells that are dying from necrosis, tissue injury, usually explode. Okay, exploding cells are much worse than imploding cells. If you implode, then it's under control. Okay, it's easy to clean up. When you explode, all your cellular components are everywhere, and therefore it can cause further problems down the road for the tissues and cells around it. Okay. All right. Okay. Your body always has stem cells. Okay. Um, and they divide by mitosis. Okay. So there's totipotent stem cells, which are in the embryo, and then pluripotent stem cells, which are in this umbilical cord and the penis. Okay. You still have multipotent stem cells. Multipotent stem cells can only divide into certain types of tissue. So, like your skeletal muscle has stem cells there called satellites, and they can differentiate into muscle, but they can't like grow into neurons or anything like that. Okay, so make sure you understand the difference between totipotent, pluripotent, and multipotent. Okay. Okay. Organs, skin, epidermis, blah. So the skin is just an example, right? You have all four tissue types. You have blood vessels, you for connective tissue, you have epithelium, you have nervous tissue, and you have the muscles here and muscles here. So all four types of tissue are here. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And I'll see you guys for chapter 4.